All right. All right. Assalamu alaikum. So thank you for joining. So we have a topic today where Rafe will cover the integration of Stripe and PayPal with our MHMA application. So I'll let him talk about it. So Rafe, you can show us your conference pages and maybe cover those, and then we can also maybe look into some of the coding which you have done. So yeah, I'll leave it to you, whatever you want to cover.
Okay, all right, yeah. All right, Zalka, thank you. All right, let me just share my screen and make everything easier. Screen one. Okay, can you guys see my screen?
Yes, we do see your screen.
Okay, all right, yeah. So I think what I'll do is just like you said, Naeem, I'll go through the Confluence pages I wrote up, and then I'll go through the code afterwards.
Mhm.
First, I'll start with PayPal. It's a lot easier and a lot less complex. Things are a lot more simpler in PayPal. So, first thing first, when I went through PayPal's documentation, what I learned was that there were two types of implementations in PayPal. You have the standard payment option, and then you have advanced credit and debit card payments. So
Mhm.
I tried doing some research and seeing what the difference is and everything. And I read in the documentation they had a pretty nice layout of this chart and kind of showed what you could and can't do. So the PayPal standard payments is, I think, a lot more widely implemented. It's used in a lot more places, and advanced credit and debit card payments is used in more of like commercial areas where like websites like Nike, Adidas, and maybe other commercial sites that want to use PayPal, they usually have much more complex implementations of this.
Mhm.
Advanced credit and debit card payments usually allow you to kind of go back after you put in your PayPal information and complete the payment on the local site, whereas standard payments don't let you do that. So anywhere where you have like a cart where you put in multiple products and then you went to checkout and then you selected PayPal as an option, you went logged in and then you went back to the site and then you clicked make payment, that's probably they have some sort of advanced implementation, whereas the standard payments implementation is just normal, straightforward, uh, um, and pretty easy to implement. Uh, I went through MHMA's GoFundMe or donations page, which is off of GoFundMe, and I donated. I just wanted to see what the workflow was like, and then I what the flow was like, and then I saw that when you open the the modal or whatever, the pop-up that opens up for PayPal, when you go and log in and then you hit pay now, then it pretty much it just takes you back and you complete your payment. So this is the what the flow looks like uh, for uh, for the normal standard payments. Essentially, you'd click the PayPal button, and then it would open a pop-up and create like an order ID. Essentially, this happens in the backend with the calls to their API. I'll show you later when I get into the code. And then it creates the order, and then you hit pay now, and then it basically creates the order and then actually submits the order and then the payment, and then it'll take you back to your page. So that's pretty much the standard implementation. Uh, the most common way to use PayPal's APIs is through a script tag for at least React.
Yeah.
Um, uh, what I think there's somebody, I don't think it's from PayPal, but somebody externally on GitHub actually wrote up a PayPal.js. I don't think it's by PayPal, but they made some way where you could actually just import the PayPal.js library, and then you would basically be able to do everything a lot easier. I didn't look too much into it because there wasn't too much documentation there. It was just like a GitHub page. But this is what I did. I put the script tag in index.html, and it's basically just makes their libraries globally available. When I call it with window, I'll show later in the code where that is. So pretty much uh, what you need to actually start using the PayPal API is your client ID basically. And you get your client ID by creating a PayPal account and then going to your developer account. So once you make your account, then you can go to the developer page and you can get all your information. There's a link right here for getting started, and then it basically just walks you through like where to go to get your credentials and the dashboard and everything, and then how to basically just get started. It's pretty nice page. They'll also show you how to access your sandbox details and everything. So pretty much, let me see. So if I log into my normal dashboard, uh,
So right now, are you hard coding our PayPal account ID with some ID, or you have that's in some other file, create some configuration file? How do you?
no, no, right now, yeah, right now it's, I'd have to actually check where it is. I believe it's in yeah, I believe it's local. Yeah, it's in the PayPal file. Yeah. So I think I remember you mentioned we have to move that to a config file
Yeah.
and then make like a API call to go and get those. Yeah, I still have to do that. For now, it's stored locally. It's all from my account. Once we move it to a config file, then we can start putting in and it's secure. Then we can put in MHMA's
Right.
info. Yeah, yeah. So yeah, for now it's just it's locally in the same file, I
And
believe.
is
So.
this in a client file, or is it?
Yes, in a client file. This is in the client file.
Okay.
Yeah, yeah. So for PayPal, um, PayPal's integration is actually very simple, and you don't really actually have to make any server-side changes. You don't have to make any APIs or anything like that. You don't have to make any API endpoint or anything. Pretty much, you just import you just create the PayPal button using that script tag. You call it, and then you create the buttons, and then you just create a few methods. You just use a few methods from the PayPal API, and that pretty much just takes care of everything. It's very hands off. I'm sure if you went through the more complex implementation, you'd have to do a lot more. But
Mhm.
pretty much this one is very easy. So over here, this is just your developer account, and then if you go to your accounts, you have your sandbox test accounts essentially. When you first create an account, the only one you'll have is your two default ones, which is personal and business. Then you can go ahead and create another account. I created another one for our Mashad project, and then I'm using this pretty much. I got the the whatever client ID I needed from this one, and then you can actually use this account and you can actually go and log into this sandbox account using the sandbox email and the generated password, and then you can actually go and log into a sandbox account from sandbox.paypal.com. And then once you log into the sandbox account, every time you make a payment or anything like that, it'll let you view that. Let me just log into this real quick. It logged me out. So this is a sandbox account, and then pretty much you can go to like your activity, all transactions, and then pretty much any transactions that you make will show up here. Okay, so let me go back to the Confluence page. Yeah, so in terms of the code, it's fairly simple. Pretty much, like I said, you create the PayPal button, and then this is you use window because it's a globally available script. And then I just use PayPal buttons.driver, and this basically just uh, this will essentially just give you the button, and then you can use this to um, uh, actually add the button to your as a React component. And the only two functions that I pretty much had was create order and on approve. So create order will essentially just create the order as soon as somebody tries to pay, and you pass it the value. You can pass it a few more parameters as well. In my implementation, I think I had a description. This is just what I had in the Confluence. I think in the documentations, it tells you exactly what you can add. But pretty much what you need is the most important is value, uh, how much the payment will actually be. And then you can hard code this, or you could make it dynamic where you get it. So I'll go over this implementation later, but uh, over here, pretty much I put like a text field, and then I just grab the amount from here, and then when I'm ready to pay, then it uses whatever amount is here. And then on approve essentially just this is what will be executed after the payment is approved. So if the payment is approved, then I'll go and execute this. So if I basically in Marcode, I have an alert and it'll just pop like an alert saying that the payment was completed. And when if you have like a confirmation page or something, then you can also redirect towards that. Uh, so in the script, yeah, okay. So, and then in terms of styling, you can style the buttons using the style, like there's a, yeah, if button style guide, and I added a link here, you can change some styling of like the layout, the color, shape, and label. There's a few other things just to like make the buttons look different, but pretty much that's it. Everything else you kind of have to do through like CSS, messing with like the CSS attributes of like a div that surrounds the PayPal button. So I'll just go over this small code that I have here, which is this application right here. So when I was testing, I just built out a small application to test everything, and then I ran everything through here. So pretty much it's the same thing that you saw there. Not much difference. One thing though, the script tag, let me see. Yeah. So one thing that I added is I had to search to find this is when you have this commit false added to the script tag, this will essentially automatically send you back to your page after completing the payment. So before, if you were on the pop-up and maybe you changed tabs or something, or you're on a different page, it'll send you back to that page after the payment is completed. I'll do a test run and then you guys can see. So, but pretty much all it is a script tag and then the one PayPal.js file, the PayPal component, and you can set price. In our implementation of PayPal, I added, I think, yeah, a description as well. So you can add some type of description to that, and that'll appear in your in that whenever you create the payment as well. So PayPal is fairly simple. There's not really too much to it. Stripe is a lot more complicated. I'll get into that once I finish. So I'll just do a quick test run to show you guys, and then if you guys have any questions after that, then we can answer those and then move on to Stripe. So pretty simple. I just go here and then I pay, and then what I do is I use one of the sandbox accounts to actually pay. So I use the business accounts client ID to collect payments, and then I use the personal account, the personal test account to send the payments. So I log in, it's John Doe, and then this is just the preset information, and then I can select any payment option and then continue. And so what happens is then it sends me back. So uh, I should have waited, but on that pop-up it said continue, and that's because of the commit false I put at the end of the script tag. If I didn't have that commit false at the end, what it would be is it would be a pay now button, and they would pay, and then it would just finish, and they'll send you back. This doesn't mean that the payment isn't completed because it's the standard payments flow. It completes the payment and then sends you back. So if I actually go here, let me see, home. Yeah, so pretty much, I believe this is the one that we just did. I can't remember if it was 10 or not. Let me see.
It was 10. It was 10.
Yes, it was 10. Yeah. So This was the payment that we just did. It just popped up here. If we do another one, then that'll show up as well. So that's pretty much just PayPal. PayPal is fairly simple. It's not too complicated unless you try moving into a different type of implementation. So any questions on PayPal before I move on to Stripe?
Any questions, right?
Yeah.
I know you covered with the FIF and Sister Tanya, but Subhan, you are I said that you guys following what Rafa is covering?
Yeah. Rafe, so basically you don't have to connect anything from the API. This is just all like something in the
Yeah,
server.
essentially when you when you create the button using that script tag, and then you just call these methods are available in PayPal already, and then when you call them, essentially it makes those API calls for you using your client ID, and then everything just works on its own. You don't really have to create any API endpoint. Stripe makes you do one because it uses something called payment intent. I'll get over that. I'll get onto that once we
So
get there.
does
Yeah.
also like, is there any coding here that shows that like if a user like inputs like if they put in their credit card information or PayPal information, but there's no money in there, like is there like a failure, like
I
insurance
believe
failure?
I read that the payment just won't go through pretty much. I think that happens on that PayPal basically takes care of all that for you. The payment won't be completed if there's not enough funds. I believe it won't go through.
All right.
My question is like, if we want to get the confirmation ID, like the integration ID once the processing has been done, is there any way we can access that?
I believe that I'm not exactly sure. I think once an order is complete, I'm not sure if the unapproved sends you
Probably
any
they are all on.
return.
Yeah, so
Yeah,
let's check what is when you're debugging this code, take a
yeah,
look
sure.
what is this return doing for you.
Let me see.
But you don't have to answer this question. We can answer this question later. We want to finish your.
Okay, yeah, sure. Yeah, I can check and then
Let's
try to
hold this
answer you
question and
offline.
we
Yeah.
will, in the end, we can do that.
Yeah, no problem. And then also, Tanyanti, I remember I told you that there was a small bug in the code. I'll push the changes and soon, but it was just the methods, the functions I was trying to pass through props weren't being passed. So then that was the only problem. And then the amount wasn't getting updated. So that's why it was bouncing. So if you put 0 here, uh, it won't open it. It'll slightly open for like a split second, then it'll close. So you can't make a payment with $0 basically. Okay, so that's
One more thing, like from the brother Naeem, like brother Naeem, if we are using the same PayPal, integration, we are doing it in our activity page.
Yeah.
So I mean, since he has used the script tag in the index.html,
Mhm.
used to be on the client side. So and the PayPal, his ID, client ID, and everything is available globally. So
Yep.
can we use the same one
Yes.
for
Yes.
integration?
Yeah, we'll use the same one. Yep. So that will go with your other stuff, like sister you have for the work you are doing with the what were we doing with the Google what was it we were doing? I forgot, man. I lost track. So we have that config file for service accounts, right? So we will put this stuff also along with that, and with along with our Google client ID. And so all this stuff we are planning to store as a central location in the database. And then we will have something on the back end which will provide us this. So this data should never be accessible on the client side. This should always happen. So I think for now, maybe Rafa's code has something in the browser, but at some point we want to put all this in the central location. Only our JS code will access that, and JSX will never access that because JSX is on the client. We may have APIs to process this data on the backend on the node server, but not available on the client, so that people cannot hack around our system.
Yeah, that's what I was thinking. The payment is a very, and like for the payment. So if I use this for a time being,
Yeah,
this client ID, so the payments will go on the same process.
yes, it will go in the same. Yeah.
So that's fine. I mean, we
Yeah,
can.
that's fine. That's fine because we will have our one PayPal account anyways, or Stripe account
Okay.
for the MHMA.
Okay, great.
Okay, so should I move on to Stripe now?
Yeah.
Okay, all right, sounds good. So Stripe is actually a lot more complicated. Stripe has a lot more features, and there's a lot more things you can do in Stripe pretty much. PayPal just has those two options, and the basic integration is extremely very simple and very fast to do. But for Stripe, even like small integrations, you have to set up a API endpoint and everything. So start off Stripe pretty much very similar. You have to have an account, and then that account gives you a publishable or a public key and then a secret key, and you end up using both of those to make API calls to Stripe's API.
Stop. So sorry. So we never talked about this. We will talk about this publishable and secret thing also maybe in one of the following. I had a very a nice YouTube video which I'll share, which will explain very well these because this is like a private key and public key, more like that.
Yeah.
So I think that there is a small video which uses some colors to mix them up to explain the private and public key really well, and it should be very easy to understand for you guys. I'll share at some point when we talk about this. So just want to remind. Keep going.
Okay. All right. Yeah. So yeah, of course, you shouldn't be sharing your public and private keys ever. If these are out, then pretty much anybody can use their APIs to do anything they want with your account. So first thing first, Stripe gives you two things. It gives you like their Stripe library for Node, and then it gives you Stripe JS. So you essentially need to get both eventually to do the front end and then the back end work. So first, I'll kind of so for basic testing, Stripe put up like a quick start guide that basically tells you, oh, you make an account and then you get your keys, and then you can make like a test. You can run a quick test to make sure everything's working. So if you want to test Stripe, you can go through that. I never ended up doing that. I just went straight to the implementation and then I got it to work. So yeah, that's that. And then after that, there's Stripe JS and then Stripe Element. So basically, React Stripe JS is I'll just read this. This is straight from their documentation. Is a thin wrapper around Stripe elements that allows you to add elements to any React application. So basically, React provides you components that you can get from stripe.js and just put them straight into your code. It gives you payment components. It gives you card element components. You can do this. This is like the payment components. I went with a simpler implementation of just getting the card instead. I think eventually we can move to using the Stripe payment element. All the guides and everything, the documentation and the videos that I was watching seemed to be using the card element components, which is why I used it. I found it easier to do, but everything, pretty much the implementation is very similar. It's just you have a few more fields, that's it. And then the card element option actually gives you a little bit more control over how you style your fields and everything. So if you want to, put things in different places, then you can kind of use the card element component instead, where it'll let you split up the card, the expiration, CVC, and then maybe add a few more components like email and stuff. But if you use the Stripe payment element, this is just straight one component like here. So you import payment element from Stripe, stripe.js, and then you just straight put it in as a component. So another important thing is when you use Stripe components, you actually have to wrap it in in a elements provider. So basically, the elements provider has to wrap all your Stripe element components, and you use load Stripe to actually to create that element provider, and it uses your publishable key to create that elements provider component. So pretty much wherever the root of your Stripe implementation is, you have to put it there. So for our in our implementation right now in the Mushid app, uh, I just to not have to make another file, I put it in the main root payment file. So where we basically just use Stripe, I just wrapped it right there. So right here. So pretty much I created the elements tag here, and then I just wrapped it. And then the Stripe, this Stripe component is the Stripe component, which has pretty much everything in there. So that's just to start off to do the front end. So basically you can use the Stripe element provider, and then you can use Stripe element components to create the front end, but this will just show you the front end side of things. You'll have the card, element on there. You'll be able to put in stuff, but you won't be able to actually pay. You won't be able to make the payment yet. That's where the backend comes in. But before I go into the backend a little bit, there's a few more things that Stripe JS provides, which is some custom Stripe hooks. So basically for security, Stripe gives you some specific Stripe hooks that you can use to actually get the payment details from the Stripe components, and then give them to your backend to actually make those payments. So basically you use these hooks to do that all. And that way you basically don't really ever have any way to get whatever the user put into those fields. So whatever credit card information that he put into that credit card component or that credit card element, you'll never be able to reach that, because you're just using Stripe hooks and their methods to move the information from there to the backend to make the payment. So I mean, I can't really go over exactly everything, but basically you right here, like it says in the documentation, you to safely pass the payment information collected by the payment elements to the Stripe API to access elements instance, you can use the hooks. So pretty much use elements and then use Stripe. Actually use elements mostly. Use Stripe you can use to actually go make API calls to the backend. So pretty much that's how you set up the front end. You basically just use Stripe element components, and then it's not too difficult. When it comes to styling, Stripe does give you some options to style your components, but Stripe element components are all wrapped in an iframe. So because they're wrapped in an iframe, any div that surrounds your Stripe element components, no formatting or CSS that you do to those will travel to your Stripe element components. You actually have to use like a special way to style those that Stripe gives you. Stripe gives you an attribute that you can pass to those components as the attribute's name is the options, and then you can style them that way. And yes, I have it in here somewhere on how to style it. I'm not exactly sure where I put it for now. But so that's pretty much the front end side of things. So the back end is where things get a little more complicated, or not too complicated, but Stripe lays it out pretty nicely. The way you create a payment is this is the flow basically. Stripe will essentially start, so you start the client side, you have your components set up that somebody can put in information into your card and everything. So that's there. So first thing first, as soon as somebody lands on your page and starts creating some sort of payment, starts doing some sort of order, anything like that, then what you do is you create something called a payment intent. So Stripe works entirely on the payment intent API. Essentially, what payment intent does is payment intent tracks your payment from start to finish and make sure that the user isn't charged twice or anything like that. Uh, so it's all over here. The payment intent involves two actions, creating and confirming. So it's all over here. So after you create your payment intent, essentially this is what you want to do when you want to start the payment. After you do that, then it'll go to your server, you'll create the payment intent. This is the server side work. And then after that, then you return the client secret from the server. So your client secret key will be present on your server. And in order to complete the payment, you need that client secret key. So that's when you take that key and then you pass it from the server to the client. And then you give it to the, specifically you give it to the methods or the functions of Stripe that you use to confirm the payment. So once you pass the secret key back, then the user will finish putting his information in and then hit they want to pay. And then you call Stripe confirm payment, and then you confirm the payment, and then it'll either, the payment will go back, it'll either go through or it'll come back like with an error or something will maybe the card was incorrect or something. Stripe will display that information for you, or you tell Stripe to display that information. So that's pretty much the backend side of things. So now in actual implementation, first you want to create the payment intent, and we do that by sending a request to your server. So for our implementation, I actually added the PayPal, the Stripe API, which is essentially just one post method. It's down here. So Stripe, yeah. So it's just one post method, and what it does is it creates your payment intent for you. So this will, once you call this, it'll create your payment intent with the amount, and then currency, and then a description. There's some other attributes or other things that you can add to it as well. I think there's like an email or something and a few other things I have to, but for now, I mean, the bare minimum, this is what you need to complete the payment. You don't really even need description. So after you send that request, right, to create the payment intent, then you want to confirm the payment after you're ready to finish the payment. So whenever the user hits like pay now, that's when you go back and then you actually submit the payment, and that's where Stripe confirm payment comes in. So you call confirm payment to actually confirm the payment, and then it'll go through. So pretty much for code, everything I have is in Stripe over here. So this is the styling that I kind of added that you can add to your component. There's like a whole documentation page that tells you how you can style each component and what you can add and what you can't add. There's a couple of videos I linked as well in the Confluence page, and in them they also talk about styling and they explain how to do it. So here pretty much everything is present. So first thing first, when we are ready to submit the payment, it will create a post message. It'll post the Stripe API, and then it'll create the payment intent, and then the payment intent will return you back the secret key, which will be used when you want to confirm the card payment. And then if there's some error, then the error will be displayed to the screen. So there's a few more things basically involved in Stripe. It's a little bit more complex than PayPal, but it's still like not too bad. The code is pretty much just there's a lot more things that can go wrong and a lot more things you have to handle and take care of, but the documentation for Stripe is really well laid out, and for payment intent, confirm payment, everything is present there on the stripe.js docs, and then the documentation that's available online. So pretty much well, one thing that I found really helpful was this page kind of went over a sample implementation. I couldn't really use this entire thing. The way that they laid out their server side was a little bit different than what we would do, because I'm using our the server that we had already set up and everything there, like those ports and everything. I just went back and added like a route, and then that's how I did it
Good.
for us. Yeah, so that's pretty much everything in a nutshell. I could go over the code, but to be honest, I know generally what's going on, but if I told you exactly what methods are calling what APIs and everything on the back end, what's going on exactly, I wouldn't really be able to say.
No, I think that's actually very good. You already showed us where to look for if there is a code. There is a stripe.js, and then there is some change in JSX. So I think people should get an idea if they need to look into the code into more.
Yeah. So it's, yeah, exactly. So yeah, to summarize that part, I just in routes, I added the stripe.js. This is the backend. This handles starting the payment intent, and then pretty much everything else is in Stripe. There's a few things for our specific use case, which is like the amount and everything. The amount and everything I pass through props. I pass through props. I give it two things pretty much. I give it the amount or the profile to get the amount and the description, and then I also give it a method to confirm the payment, which is basically what it should do after the payment is complete. Which is post that information to the database. So that method that does that, I passed it to props as well. So and then the main thing that I mentioned already was you need to make sure to surround your implementation with the elements provider. And element. So I think a better implementation would be to create another file, and then put that elements provider, create the elements provider in that component, and then give it Stripe, and then not do it here. But just to not have to create another
No, I think
file.
this is not bad. Actually, this is good. I mean, it doesn't really need another file because there's not too much going on.
Exactly. Yeah. There's just one of two
So
filters. Yeah.
the other important thing is, which earlier Sister Tanya also brought up, that we should still try to get some confirmation ID back from both PayPal and
Okay. Yeah. I'll look into that. I'm pretty sure that they're probably logging it, or it's somewhere that I can get it. I'll look into getting it.
Because then we have to say, if let's say we are doing an auditing, that what is inside our Stripe payments and what is inside our membership data, and then we have to tally them. So it would be very useful to have that kind of information in order to make sure that the payments are consistent on both sides.
Okay. Yeah. Sure. I can look into that and see what
This is actually amazing, and I have to also comment that you did a great job, not just completing this but also showing us and presenting it. It was very impressive presentation. Thank you so much.
Yeah, no problem.
Anyone else has any questions?
Nope.
Okay. All right. So a question to you, Rafe: is your code all checked in, or you still have to check in some code?
So yeah, I made sure everything was working. I can actually I merged everything locally, so I have pretty much everybody's changes and everything that's in the main branch. So I have like Hamza's changes, Tanyanti's changes, Afif's changes, and everybody. Subhan's changes, everything merged on my local branch, and I created a pull request. Tanyanti told me, I think yesterday, that I'm not sure if the pull request was accepted because my code isn't on the main your repo right now.
Yeah, it has to be on the main repo to get it.
Okay. Yeah, exactly. Yeah. So I think the pull request wasn't accepted or something. I'm not sure, but
I'll take a look if there's a pull request. I haven't looked at it yesterday.
Okay. Yeah. I think Athar said he might have seen it. I'm not sure if he accepted it or not. I'll check again. I actually might just cancel if it hasn't been accepted, and then send I have to just push like a few small bug fixes, and then I'll send the request again.
So the next thing which we want to do is, I know you guys are, Afif and Sister Tanya also has a lot of things going on, and you guys are, or your app is almost there. So we want to do is we want the test of our whole application. We will not start concentrating our testing also. That how we, and Asad, it's opportunity for you also, that you try to set up the app on your machine and try to go through and see if you can break this app, right? So like payment information, when we are making the payments, earlier we said if we say zero payment, does it go through, or a negative payment or stuff like that. So we need to look into those things. And same thing, we have to do it for FIFA also, FIFA and Cisjordania, that those activities which we are registering, can we break this? Are they bulletproof? I know they're not, but we need to start looking into that and try to break it. And then once you find that this is you can break it, you can open an incident or issue on the Jira. That will also give you the understanding of how this Jira product is used. And then once we look at those Jira issues, we can look into who needs to work on that. Does that work for you, Asad, or do you understand what I'm saying?
Yeah, I understand, but I just want to confirm, is the GitHub main the main fork on GitHub, is that updated with everyone's updates?
No, that's we are working on. So after we're done, then we will let you know. Does that?
Okay, so yeah, you can just let me know which fork, which person I should fork their project, and then I can run on my machine.
Okay, perfect. Anything else? Asad, if you, I just want you to get started on it. That will give you the understanding of the project also. And then maybe we can have you do other things. But I think that's also an important activity for testing it. And then we also, next step would be, once this gets really well tested, we have to demo this to our board of directors as well. Once this app is well tested and looks good in a working fashion, I know we still have to do some important things which are regarding the security, which I will work with Sister Tanya on. I haven't been, I mean, last couple of weeks have not been easy for me, so I haven't made much progress on that side, but we will for sure. But we want to move into this direction, maybe in 2 to 3 weeks, or maybe maximum 4 weeks. We want to show it to the board of directors, and I would like you guys to demo this. Like Rafi did a great job today. Similar, I know Rafif, you have been doing presenting us very well. So maybe the activity page you will do, and the payment page Rafi will do. Yeah. And then if we have other projects also ready, then we can demo those as well.
All right, that makes sense.
Okay, Afif, did you ask something I missed, or?
No, I just my mom and I had updates as well. So if we could go over them really quickly.
Yes, absolutely. We should. Yeah.
Mm-hmm. So my mom did some UI updates, and I'm mostly working on the back end. So I think, yeah, she could show first, so then I can also show the back end after that.
Okay, perfect.
Yeah, so I have tried to incorporate the the drop down menu for activities, and I have created both the the API as well as the the document, model file for the external activities as well, because I felt like I should have a separate external activity document instead of combining it with the internal one.
Okay.
So let me share the screen.
Yeah, I can show the backend demo of the Postman. I was able to get the thing that wasn't working last time, and we've also added a little bit of some extra things to it to incorporate external activities as well.
It's working. Let me restart it. So. So can you guys see the screen?
Yeah.
Yes.
Yeah, so I have just incorporated like activities is a drop down, so I can select internal, and I think it's still reading. Yeah, so it's giving the internal as usual, and if I choose external, so it is giving the events like this.
Okay.
So I can delete it, I can add it, and I can create new events as well. We have this button, and there's
like the form, yeah. So the
Yeah.
form last time, which we discussed with you, so if you go to external events, you can create the title and event like URL, and that will
Excellent.
add to the card.
Yeah,
And so
well,
if you're in internal,
yeah, I think this simplifies great deal. Yeah, that's great.
yeah, rather than the radio button, we decided on having something like this. And if you go to internal event, the event form is the same thing. So
Yeah, so I'm also going to share with the my API endpoints, but so
I'll just-
yeah, before that, I just want to share that one. Actually, I don't have I don't know about the rules of defining the API endpoints. So I don't know. I'm just doing it on my own. So if there is anything you need to change it, so I can just change that one. So activities.js, Afif will discuss for that. For external, I have created another route, which is external activities.js. And in the server.js, I'm using /activities/external
Okay.
for that. And in the routes, in the external activities, it is similar to that one. Then I have a slash, like next
Yeah.
slash. So activities
Slash returns everything. Yeah.
will give you get all. And if I want to get by ID, I can get with this.
Yeah.
And post is again /external. Only the thing is that we have to add /external, and everything we can do with that.
Perfect.
I'm not using the put because we don't need to update it. It's just a URL. So we can just delete it and we can post it. So
Oh.
I haven't created the put API.
Yeah, might as well do put as well, because just for the completeness purposes, just to add put also.
But for the UI, do I have to add it? Because I didn't use the update button there. So I just use the
Yeah,
delete.
yeah, that's fine. But I think the backend should still have it. We might change the UI in future. So I think it's still, for the completeness purposes, it's better to just have.
Okay. Okay. Yeah. And for model, we have an external activity model. And here for internal activities, I have just given the name activity.js as it was used before. So now activity collection activities here, the collection. Yeah, this is actually holding just the internal activities.
Okay.
Now the external activities, we have external activity.js, and it is almost the same, just the title and the URL. We have only two things, and then we have so this is just the URL, checking the URL. So
the regular expression.
Yeah. So it's an regex expression for checking the URL.
You guys, we will cover at some point. I don't know how long we will keep going. A lot of things keep coming up, so we should probably discuss these regular expressions also at some point.
Yeah, I actually have I took one course, but I forget. So this is just I took it from internet, so I Google searched it.
Yeah, no, I think this is mostly, we have been doing this stuff for ages, like in the on the Unix side, but yeah, now it is available in a lot of these programming languages also support that, so that's why it becomes important. It's pretty popular these days. Easy to validate also. Otherwise, you have to write so many if conditions in order to validate. Just put everything in one line. So.
Yeah, right. So that's it for me. So now
that's great, Sister Tanya, amazing. That's wonderful. I think.
Just one thing before Afif starts is that there is a little error here which I see is that like if I'm just fetching the external activities right now with this API endpoint. So now if I again do external, it keeps adding on it and then it throws error. So is there something I should be doing? Because this is just the, at the front end side, I'm defining the link.
Yeah, I think it is happening because of your, you have activity/external. So why, I mean, one thing for easy for now is that you don't make it external, you make one level. I have not looked into that, what you have used. If you go down to your API.
Yeah, at the client
server.js.
Server.js is
yeah, down. Yeah. So if you look at your activities external, where is it?
Here.
Yeah. So I have not done, even though this is supported, but I don't know what how you need to fix it. But I think maybe if you can use the external activities instead of activities, that may solve your problem. So line number 82, use external activities.
External activities.
Yeah.
as a one
As one, yeah.
activities.
But what you are doing is actually used a lot of places. I have seen it many, but I don't know what to do, how to fix your thing. But I think what I'm proposing is a simpler solution.
But
to-
brother Naim, I think it's the problem is not here. The problem is at the UI side, the way I'm defining the link here in the UI route. Where is this?
Oh, okay. Go
Yeah,
to
in
that.
the navigation.js,
Uh-huh.
here I am giving like this, as a nav drop down and with
Oh,
HR.
that's right. That's
activity.
right. Yeah.
So
yeah.
when I add it again, so it just, I don't know, it keeps on adding, and then it definitely there is no API defined as activity/external/activity/external. So I don't know why it keeps adding. So in the navigation, I just add this one, and in the there was app.js. Yeah, here in the route, I have defined /activities and linking it to internal activities component. And for external /activities/external, I'm linking to external activities. So it has to do something with that. I don't know. It's from because
Yeah,
you
so
are
why
picking-
don't you change it here then? And change it to activities external and then use that.
oh, I can do that. Okay. Yeah, I'll try probably.
Yeah, try that. I mean, what you are saying is actually certainly possible. And trust me, if I look into it for sure, we will figure it out, but it's not going to happen soon enough before I take a look. So I'm saying that you can do it this way.
Okay, but it's a minor mistake, but it's
This
still
is,
oh, yeah,
what you're doing is not wrong. I think there's something we just have to fix it in the route, like you're saying.
okay. Okay, great. Thank you.
So
Yeah.
is Afif, do you have to share anything?
Yeah, I'm going to be sharing something.
Okay, you can go ahead.
All right. Yeah. Okay. All right. So I'm right here. So I put all the commands in the chat. So basically, right now I can access my UI is not updated because I just I didn't take my mom's code yet, but I did update the backend. So you can access all the activities. For example, right here. You can also access, for example, so in the GET request, you can access the registration. So if I want an activity in particular, so I can access the activities /external. And you can access all the external activities. And if you want to fetch a particular activity with an ID, you can put /external/the ID. Then you can fetch the ID for that as well.
Yeah.
And then, of course, you can also, yeah, so you have those for external fetching. You also have /registration. So for example, you want to fetch for activities in particular, it's all internal activities. So if you do internal activities and then you get your ID here, and then you do /registration. If you want to see what the registration is, and you enter the ID. Right.
Afif, this was /all. You have to first
Oh
pull
yeah,
up.
I keep forgetting that /all. Activity/all.
Activity/registration/all.
Oh yeah, okay.
You are getting the registered registration info, right?
Yeah, so activity/registration,
Members.
/all, and then yeah, so then here you go, you get your dependent ID, your members who are registered for it. Then you can fetch the ID from there. And then you enter it here, right? And that ID applies. So then, for example, right now, this is the COVID-19 vaccination event. You have the payment amount, you have the dependents who are registered for it. Currently, that's none. You have the members who are registered for it. And like, for example, you have this person, guys registered for this, and you have their guardians, and you can access the member and dependent information down here. There's also post and delete commands as well.
Did you cover patch and put as well?
We don't have puts, except I believe we have one put for activity/ID.
Mhm.
Yeah, and you can change the ID for the activities. So yeah, so you can take the ID and then you can change the information of one particular activity. I don't think we have put a request for anything else though.
I think Afif, we have look into that. I think I have seen it. So you there was you copy pasted from there, so it was a put request as well.
Do you have okay, so you might have removed it. So yeah, I think like I earlier said, for the completeness purpose, do write the put as well as patch. Yeah.
Yeah, we'll put puts and patch. Yeah, there's only one put. I made sure to check it beforehand. So
Brother Naeem, what's the difference between patch and put? Because I mean, I don't know for patch.
Yeah, so patch generally when you are changing maybe one or two fields, I think it should be somewhere in when we covered the REST APIs. When you're changing one or two field, normally you use the patch. But when you're changing the whole row, complete row, you use that. But I think patch is well used in mostly most of the time we use the patch.
Oh,
Yeah.
I was using the put for just updating even one field, but it was working fine. So
Oh yeah.
but logically it doesn't work. So I will just change it to
Yeah. Normally you use patch for one or two fields change. Yeah.
okay.
Right. And so can we make the pull request to the main for the current UI and then of course the backend?
Yeah.
All right, so we can do that. And then the next step of the process is us and I are supposed to make the payment page. So like after the payment integration, we can use what we learned from Rafa's presentation today and put those into our page.
All right. Great work, guys. This is so impressive. So I know the other couple of guys have dropped. So I mean, I haven't had much updates because most of these college students, they all are going through this week for the midterm. I know they are busy. So I mean, but again, we need some more progress from these guys. I like Sister Tanya, your energy and Afif's energy. I want this energy to spread over other people also. And it gives me energy also because if there is not much progress in these projects, then I also have less energy to deliver to work more on it. So I am hoping that after this week, probably these other guys also can show some more progress. And Rafa did a wonderful job. I think I was very his presentation was very impressive, and he knows how to go through things, which is also a great skill to have for people to get jobs and be able to rise up in the management. He has a very calming voice, and this is something I want the other people also to learn from him.
Right. Asad, I think you had to say something. Didn't you want to bring something up before I started sharing?
Yeah, Asad, go ahead. If you have any...
Okay, so let me just share. So I mean, I was just doing some sandbox. I just did some coding on the sandbox instead because I was seeing. I mean, I thought I could like quickly change it and stuff. So, but I can move that to a specific components page I have in VS Code. I believe it's closed right now, but like Afif was talking, we have to create our payment page. So according to our structure, our draft, we should have, the family members transaction fee. But right now I worked on creating this bottom part where we have payment method. I just want to confirm these are just images, right?
Yeah, those are just images. That's
those are just images, yes.
And then that's why the pay with PayPal button is going to be kind of like Rafa is like pay with PayPal with the proper formatting and all of that. This is just a radio button to allow for them to select the payment method and then they can continue on. The reason why this is done like that, because for the first ones for the credit cards, they have to use the Stripe. So then they have to actually enter their payment information, all their details.
Oh, so we'll have to make another page with specific to Stripe or specific to PayPal, right?
Yeah, go to the next slide, I believe. It should be.
Okay.
It should be right there. Yeah, so if that's PayPal, and then go up through the, I believe that's a card. Go up a couple slides. Yeah, so this go up one more. So this would be how if you select through the cards, then you click proceed to checkout, and you would be taken to next slide.
This one, right?
Yeah, this one. So you'd enter something like this. This one I took from SBIA, South Bay Islamic Association. But we can have a similar type of thing where you enter the name, you enter your card number, you enter all of that, and then they can pay through there.
Yeah, so this will be part of our Stripe stuff, right? Yeah.
Okay, so yeah, this is what I've created right now. It's just like a basic structure. We still need to, I guess, put some more UI.
That's good.
Stylizing. Yeah. And just wanted to check my plan of thought was to create a table with one column being your name of what type of transaction, and the other one will just be maybe like a I don't know, maybe we can have more columns for each image. So just image for MasterCard, Visa, and then another column right below will be for PayPal.
That sounds good. I think that would be pretty easy to format as well and fix, like align with
Yeah.
the rest of the UI. So that should be good.
Okay, and then I created a cancel and continue to basically, yeah, to have like to mimic this, cancel and proceed to checkout.
Mhm.
Like over here, number one, this is under a certain type of layout, right? Like there's a gray bar on top and the bottom. So I need to implement that, but I
Yeah,
was
you don't
wondering
need to. So hang on, Asad. So if you will be doing it here, it will be difficult for you. You should try to make this code into our application because a lot of things you will get automatic. A lot of those coloring may be already there
So
set
we
up.
have components for that as well.
So
Yeah,
try
okay.
doing it there instead. I know it will be a little bit harder to get started, but once you're started, it would help you. You don't have to implement all of the other stuff then.
Okay. All right. So, but within on the bottom, there's just these two buttons, and I'm making those two buttons over here, but they're both grayed out right now. I know in your overall website you have like a sharp corner boxes. So that's some formatting which I think I could pull from like the other
That's
components.
exactly what you're going to get automatic if you be doing it there, right?
Yeah, so I mean, yeah, I'll just like copy paste this into like another .jsx file.
Yep.
Yeah, and so yeah, I'll just copy this into a JSX file, and then
Yeah.
maybe I can connect later to see how I can import some of the style components for stylizing.
Good. That's good work, man. Yeah, I think
Yeah.
it may be a little bit slow for you now, but you will catch up. I know if you keep working hard, you will catch up with these guys.
Yeah.
You can look into the documentation of the Bootstrap as well for React. So that will help you, in your CSS, styling your buttons. It's very easy. You
Do we
just
already have like some of the methods written down in our CSS file within the project?
yeah, for this, I think for buttons, if we have defined, yeah, you can just take that one. But
Yeah.
some of the things, I think probably for buttons, I have used the Bootstrap. So you can look into that as well. I have done mix and match. So just check it out. I don't remember right now, but maybe if I have used some, styling from the Bootstrap, so you can look into that documentation, or you can just copy from mine, and you can define some colors. They have some colors already available, so so you just look into the documentation of that.
Yeah,
Bootstrap.
maybe we can meet
Yeah.
and then we can like connect it.
Just search Bootstrap's React documentation, and if you want to see the button, just find button in the search field. So you will be able to see how to render the button and do the styling. So with whatever is available. If you want to see some specific style, you can also look into it. So just refer the documentation, and then also you can use mine. I don't remember which one I have used, so I cannot tell. But yeah, I mean, you can use definitely. If there is already a CSS done for a button, you can use that one.
Yeah. Yeah, I'll take a look at that. But yeah, that's all I had.
Good. So sister, if he moves his code into our project, we're already that page already has those rounded corners and all that stuff. So if he'll get it for free, he doesn't have to look into the Bootstrap, right?
Like you're saying, the buttons, the way we have defined.
The way we have defined. So if he follow the same buttons, he will get the style automatically from the.
Yeah, like I just need
the
call
same
the
button.
function.
Yeah, but yeah, if he uses the same, he can copy paste. Yeah. So only like colors, if you want to define different colors. So you have to
Then he will have to look into that. Yes. Yeah. Okay. All right. If we have nothing else to talk about, thank you so much, guys, and we will meet next week, inshallah.
Okay.
Assalamu
Assalamualaikum.
Allah Hafiz.
Assalamu alaikum.
Assalamualaikum.